Hello, I'm here with Vineet Jain, the CEO of a company called Egnyte, spelled E-G-N-Y-T-E, not I-G-N-I-T. Why did you spell it wrong?
Actually, we wanted the real world Ignite, but somebody was squatting on that domain, and it was a startup that we could not afford $6,000 to buy it from them. So we tried different variations, and we ended up actually getting onto E-G-N-Y-T-E, and that's how it started.
So you've raised tens of millions of dollars by now. Why don't you just go back and just buy the $6,000 domain and then switch over?
Well, there's so much of branding that's being created now with Ignite.
I'm kidding. Your logo would not work with an I. It wouldn't really fit. But you're here today because you guys recently announced a change in strategy, kind of at the turn of the new year, to become, if you will, the intelligence layer between on-prem storage and cloud storage.
The announcement pertained to this unique advantage Ignite has, that we're at the perch looking at all your access, whether it's data in the cloud or on-prem. And this huge amount of metadata that's being generated to derive intelligence out of it, and then be able to parlay this into data protection or file management and file data management are two adjacent spaces, which gives a much richer platform play for an enterprise class customer.
So essentially, because you see both on-prem and cloud storage, you can see even more intelligence on total file movement through the system.
Precisely. Every device, people on-prem, off-prem, any application. So all of that rich data and being able to do cognitive analytics, and then being able to drive very smart predictive intelligence, where you can smartly place data closest to the edge. You can create folders. You can automate a lot of this operations by leveraging this intelligence as a key part of this operation.
Is any other major provider in your specific market space doing something similar, or are you kind of alone in this?
So when you look at cloud-only players, you have companies like Microsoft with OneDrive, you have Google Drive, you have Dropbox, and a bunch of others.
Sure. And on the on-prem side, you have?
You're talking about incumbents like EMC, NetApp, Dell, and some of the newer players. So there's a very clear schism that exists between a cloud-only approach versus an on-prem approach. And what we have always theorized and executed on is to say the world of cloud and on-prem will start merging, and they'll become fungible data tiers. And it'll be all about workload efficiency on where the data needs to be based on security considerations, file sizes, latency, and such.
So you still believe fundamentally that on-prem storage will remain a vital part of the storage market for the next 10, 15 years? Even as the cloud grows and becomes ubiquitous. So how much bigger is the market then? I mean, is this like 100% bigger, or do you think it's something like 500% bigger?
So in pure numbers, if you look at data management and data protection, these two combined themselves is a $15 billion market opportunity.
On a per year basis?
Per year basis.
Yes.
File sync and share, purely from an enterprise perspective, is $1.8 billion.
So it's 9x.
It's pretty huge.
Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about your company's financial growth over the last, I want to say 2 years now. And the last time we discussed this, you said your gross margins were going to improve from 68 to 74% from 2014 to 15.
You remember?
I do. And you also said a couple times last year that you were going to do about $100 million in revenue this year. And so looking at those numbers, it seems like Egnyte's in good financial health. Have those trends continued, or have you seen bumps in the road along the way?
Things from a numbers point of view are growing very well as per the plan. But there has been one interesting bump, which I definitely want to share. So we had theorized that from a distribution point of view, other than going direct to the market, channel is going to be a big part of how we'll grow this business, especially the channel which is predicated around the on-storage vendor side, because we work with a lot of different on-storage solutions, EMC, NetApp specifically. Sure. And they are called the VARs, the value-added resellers. Unfortunately, we invested almost for like 18 months to the point of realization that that class of resellers is not used to this perpetuity income model where you're creating recurring revenue. They're used to pushing boxes with discrete revenue being recognized right in that quarter, in that month. So that's been one.
So did they didn't get the business model in that they thought they would get more revenue up front, or that they didn't know how to sell it, or what was the actual tension there?
It's basically what you just said, the former part. They are so used to booking everything in that one quarter, one discrete sell, that to be able to convince them that lifetime value is 5 years, and if you look at the churn, the present value of that future flow of money is so much, it's very hard.
So you literally had to explain SaaS economics to the VARs.
Precisely, and that's
the nerdiest thing I've said in a long time, but it's also very, very funny to me.
That hasn't worked.
There was a big moment in the enterprise file sync and sharing, or EFSSS, I don't know, market that you're in. Box went public, and we've talked about this a couple of times, and they did very, very well. And you had said publicly you hoped that they were going to have a strong IPO. it's going to be good for your firm. So my question is, were you surprised by how well they did on their first day of trading?
No, not really, because it was, as you said, a watershed moment in our space because of the long delay and a lot of anticipation that built around it. But the fact that their bankers underpriced it calculatedly and therefore derived a pop out of it gives it the patina of a hugely successful IPO. But I think going beyond the IPO of a specific company,
sure.
the overall trend has to be, there has been a lot of exuberance in the financial markets. Valuations have been sky high. And this trend has been there for a long time. But I do think that once the overall financial public markets tighten up, which they will, as the Feds are winding down and all the effects of that easy money is going to go away, the scrutiny on valuations, the scrutiny on profitability, and you know, one of the terms nobody talks about, it's called EBITDA, EBITDA.
Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Impressive.
Or EBITDA, if you're
there you go. Nobody really talks about it.
I do.
I find that amazing. I mean, maybe you're an exception, dude. But the point is, if you want to build for the long term, you have to look at the core mechanics of your business and the core profitability, the improving gross margins, cash flow break even. All those things have to be under higher scrutiny than they have been until now.
All right, so Vineet, IPO next 12 months, Egnyte, yes or no?
Not in the next 12 months.
18 months?
Most likely.
Most likely. So in that 6-month period between January and July of next year?
Right now, the overarching goal is hit $100 million trading revenue, be cash flow break even, and then be profitable.
So what are you going to be rolling out over the next couple of months, 6, 12 months, that we should have our eyes out for?
There's a lot of scalability issues that need to be addressed because as you go into larger and larger class of customers, the number of sites all over the world they want to put on your solution.
You mean scale in terms of how much of your product they actually want to use? They want to use a lot of it.
Yeah,
across a bunch of different data centers and so forth.
Different sites, number of concurrent users, the number of access points, combination of mobile and desktop. So there's always a curve that you have to keep on hitting in terms of scalability. And tied to scalability is the performance. And then security is another vector where you can never sit still. More so if you start getting into regulated industries. But the other interesting thing that we are working on is we want to be the core file serving infrastructure and allow you to work with a tool of your choice, whether you work with Google Drive or Office 365 on that side, or whether you work with on-prem storage, whether it could be a Compellent or it could be EMC or it could be the new guys like a Nutanix, for example.
Sure.
So it is beefing up that ecosystem and working with some partners is going to be a big part of the product strategy.
Cool. So, but discreetly, what's your next thing you're going to announce?
You know, I'm hedging that because I don't know if my marketing team has allowed me to talk about it. But we have
they're
something.
Not watching. No one's going to see this.
We have something coming up. I think in March or April, we'll be announcing a very tight integration with a large vendor, or large solution provider rather, not a vendor. And it's again goes back into this whole thesis to say, let people use any device, any tool, and any storage. And it's going to be in one of those realms.
Okay, well, we'll talk to you in March then, and you're going to have a pretty big 18 months.
It's going to be an interesting 18 months.
Vineet, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much, Alex.